Hi, I'm Don Cantor, former co-director of JLIC at Johns Hopkins University and current director at the Richmond Jewish Learning Experience in Richmond, Virginia.
And I'm Alex Ozar, co-director of JLIC at Yale University, and this is the Torah JLIC podcast. JLIC supports thousands of young Jews in their college years and beyond, providing them with the nourishment they need to sustain an upward trajectory of Jewish commitment and growth as they enter the broader world. And the animating engine of that effort, that has always been and will always be Talmud Torah. High-level, richly meaningful, thoughtfully creative Torah learning ambitiously attuned to the realities of where our students are. On the Torah JLIC podcast, we hope to share some of that Torah with you. Thanks for listening.
Today, we get to talk to Rav Shlomo and Kira Ashkenazi. Shlomo is originally from Chicago and Kira is from Woodmere. They both made Aliyah before hopping back over to the U.S. to work for JLIC. Both Rav Shlomo and Kira have backgrounds in fundraising, which I'm sure makes Penny Rosenthal, JLIC's National Development Director, very happy. Shlomo also has worked for Our Crowd, a Jerusalem-based venture capital fund. Most importantly, though, the Ashkenazis are the founding co-directors of JLIC at Washington University in St. Louis, and we are excited to hear from them. Welcome, Ashkenazis.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us a little bit about what your community is like, what's going on over there in St. Louis.
Ladies,
I'll just say, before you even start, that this is like the third time we've tried to record this podcast, and one of those times was because last week there were a bunch of tornadoes.
Yes, weather is very unexpected here in St. Louis. A little bit of a weak spot for me in our time here, but overall, putting that to the side, we are here. We're finishing up our third year here in St. Louis. We came here on October 9th, 2023. Which was very much a whirlwind, a very intense time as we were, getting here and figuring out the best plan of action for us and for our family, and kind of what do we do? Being away from Israel, freshly moved to America, and decided to start and to support the community, and it's been a really meaningful experience for us here in St. Louis and at WashU within the broader Jewish community here, within the student Jewish community, and we feel very grateful.
What a crazy time to start.
Yeah, take us a little more depth into those opening months when you come in. You're not only are you new, but you're starting an entirely new program, a new landscape, and it is a crazy time both for you personally, for the Jewish people overall, and I'm sure for the Jewish students at Washington University in St. Louis. Tell us the story.
Shlomo, I think you should take this one because it has a lot to do with Shlomo's role as also a Miluim soldier, and I think coming from you is the best place to start.
Yeah, it's an emotional thing still 3 years later. It's a longer story. It really goes back probably even before we decided to go, we'll call it a shlichus, to OUJLIC. But pretty much we, thank God, had our first child in May of 2023, and we got the job at WashU. We were going to start WashU, but we wanted to do it after the Chagim so that my family can meet our new daughter because they hadn't met her yet. And we could take it a little bit easy, get to America, see family, and then get started full speed ahead. So we actually were in New York over Simchas Torah, and we hear the news like everybody else, not really believing it, etc. I'm part of a unit, Shmona Shtayim Epes Shmona, in Miluim, which is very much a Gaza-focused Miluim unit. So when I heard what was happening, obviously I pretty much knew right away that my unit was being called. Again, I didn't know the severity of everything, so I didn't realize everyone was being called. And I had a whole debate with myself. Am I checking my phone? Am I not checking my phone? At the end, we follow Rav Tzvi Rimon, so we keep a day and a half, even today in America, for Yontif. So after first day Yontif, I decided, I can check my phone. I can see what's going on. I check my phone. I see the news. I see what's going on. And we had a decision to make. Pretty much was, do I go back, leave Kira, my new daughter, and not start WashU? Or do we start WashU? And what to do? Yes, to make a long story short, we decided to stay. Still don't know if that was the right decision. That probably will haunt me for the rest of my life. Whether or not staying was the right decision as opposed to going back and joining my friends in the army. But credit to Kira. Kira was like, your decision. If you want to go back, I'll stay here. I'll be with my parents. We'll figure it out. and we decided to stay and start building WashU. So we get to WashU October 9th, 2023. We had met some students very briefly, either at our house in Yerushalayim when they were there for the summer, but pretty much we're like, okay, what do we do? So we had a WhatsApp group that was already being made kind of for us coming, and we texted the WhatsApp group being like, hey, you don't really know us. We're the new JLIC couple. We're moving into a house that we've never seen before. We're getting in at 3 o'clock. If you guys want to do mincha and a kumsitz and tehillim at our house at 5 o'clock, let's do that.
Wow.
So we walked into our house and we realized there's no furniture or anything. And also our house was built in like the 1920s. So there's no actual fixtures in the ceiling. So we had no light, no couches, no chairs, and 40 kids showed up. And we sang davened. I cried to people that I had no clue who they were, and they didn't know who I was. But it was a very emotional but amazing experience, one where almost like I said, it was an advantage to us. It kind of sounds bad, but the fact that the WashU Jewish community and the Jewish community overall was kind of needing each other, kind of allowed that transition to us starting the community or starting JLIC there, as it was kind of like a benefit. And we've been full steam ahead ever since then.
If I could also interject, I think this was the first time that Shlomo and I were working together, as in this job, as every JLIC co-director couple experiences. And I, watching, Shlomo said he cried. And that was like a very good foreshadow to who Shlomo is as the rabbi of community here. And he really wears his heart on his sleeve, and being able to just open up and let his guard down and just connect with the students in that way, I think was a really amazing thing for me to see, because that was the first time that I've seen him, first of all, lead almost like lead a community. And it was our first day here, but also that he just like opened up and, didn't hold back. And that's been definitely an amazing quality of Shlomo, but also a theme of our community here, really a sense of like connection with the students in a real deep and meaningful way.
Really, really an incredible story. So take us over through the months and years after that, building a new program at WashU. Who are these students? What do they need? And how did you help get them what they need?
It's an interesting community. It's a very, very new one, meaning WashU has always been very Jewish, but the day school, or what I'll call it, is more of a Jewish background, kind of call it the conservadox community. It was kind of always kind of small. Day school students or gap year students, seminary students didn't really come to WashU so much. And the first year, probably was COVID, the year of the COVID year kind of changed that a little bit at WashU. They had a nice group of, we'll call it day school students, who really came and were leaders and started building out a community for day school students at WashU. And they were looking to grow that. So they brought JLIC in. When we got to campus in 2023, that group of students, I would say, was about 50 people. And today our community is over 100 in 3 years. So WashU community has like exploded beyond. I think according to recent data within our sphere, we're talking to, I would say, day school students were around 100, and then you have the non-day school students that are still somewhat, more connected or have more of a background, and that brings us over 100 people. So it's doubled in about 2 years. And next year we're expecting over 50 gap years. We're about 50 gap year students coming to WashU.
Wow.
So the community has just kind of skyrocketed and exploded, and that really is due to the student body here. I think is very, very special. You mentioned asking about what kind of students come here. I think it's students who really care about their Jewish identity, but really care about building a community that's student run and student led, that has real student engagement, and they're proud of that, and they want it to be that. That really was what drew us to WashU in the first place, was just the student community here, and that's only grown even more. That impression and that positive connection we have to the students, I think, has only grown more and more as we've been here.
Have there been any particular challenges you've had to work through?
For sure. I think with every new opportunity, and specifically here, new campus, this is the first time JLIC is here, comes with growing pains, figuring out kind of our place here. When we were told that the students wanted JLIC and they wanted, a kind of leadership from a rabbinical couple, maybe to kind of like even outsource some of the responsibility that they were holding for themselves, but also to have guidance and mentorship. And before we even got here, we jumped on a Zoom and we were told by the students, this is what we do, and this is what we do, and this is what you should follow, and these are expectations. And Shlomo and I kind of got off the call and we're like, what do you then like? Why do they want a JLIC? What is going to be our role here? And yeah, and there were growing pains in that, figuring out our place, and that we didn't want to overstep. We want to. I think a big important thing that we really try to uphold is this sense of like student leadership, really supporting the students through different leadership opportunities and them as leaders. And we want to make sure that we're not overstepping and we're really kind of working in tandem with the students. But all that comes with its growing pains, and kind of trying to find our place. As there's a very strong Chabad here, and we work in conjunction with Hillel, and every campus has their own dynamics with all the the parties at play. But it was really just trying to figure out where we stand. And then an additional challenge I'd say that is like coming up is, and talking to the students about it and kind of trying to guide them through it, is as the community grows, like Shlomo was saying before, it really started off as this like kind of like this small, idealistic, unique, diverse community. And now there are 50 more gap year students coming in, which is doubling the grade that's leaving. So what are we supposed to do? As there's going to be different kind of needs, a pull in maybe a more orthodox direction, and kind of how do we uphold the authenticity and support the students in that unique and diverse community, while also trying to cater to these new needs that I'm sure we don't even know what's to come. So I'd say that's like an ongoing challenge, but also opportunity.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you're thinking about how when you're a smaller community, it's much easier to be integrated within the broader Jewish student population, and the bigger you get, I imagine the harder that'll be?
Yeah, that's definitely one of our concerns. Is I think Kira and I look at our number one goal is to build relationships. I think that's above all, and now that's through Torah. That's amazing, and that's definitely that's the ideal. But that could be through one-on-one conversations. That could be talking sports. That could be so many different things, and you want to build those real relationships. And as the community grows and grows, you can only have so many quote unquote super close relationships. So figuring out how we're going to divide up our time is different. And also, again, when I would say like this, usually the day school students find you, generally, not always, but they know there's a JLIC, they know what JLIC is. They maybe have a motivation and a certain want to already connect to some rabbinic figure. And therefore they'll find you. And that's easy, kind of like low-hanging fruit per se, if you want to call it that, to build that relationship. However, with students that say are coming from more diverse backgrounds or didn't go on a gap year, you sometimes have to go find them. And if you don't have the time to, or you're so inundated with students who kind of want to build that relationship, how do you divide your time where you can still have those special relationships and connections with students who didn't come from quote unquote diverse backgrounds? And I think that's something that we as a couple have to handle, but also our community is going to have to figure out, how does our community branch out properly, not stay so insular, not be too cliquey, be welcoming. How can it be that the events that we run don't get watered down, but only get strengthened by the amount of people that come? So I have a background in startups and venture capital, and something that I'm very, very, very passionate about. And hopefully maybe one day we'll get back to that. It's a big discussion of how you scale a company. Your company, when it's 10 people and it's just, the founders and the first 5, 6, 7 employees, it's really easy to keep a company culture a certain way. When we start building it out to 300 people, to 200 people, to 100 people, to 50 people, how do you get that company culture to continue throughout the company? And, building a community is very similar. And I think that's something that we have to figure out as well.
Yeah, and also even from a student's perspective, something that the students really feel is important here is this idea of like doing communal meals every Shabbat. We do,
like the entire community?
The entire community. Friday night Chabad, Hillel Shabbat day. We're with the students all Shabbat day. Friday night we host small groups of students that we try to really host everyone at least once. And really and a lot of players are anti-meal culture. We don't want to become a big community where people who don't necessarily have a chevra or maybe are on the outskirts, that if they're not invited to a meal, everyone kind of who isn't invited to a meal is left over at Hillel on Shabbat. We don't want to create that. But then you have students who want to have a meaningful Friday night dinner or Shabbat lunch with their friends. And how do we support that and give the proper guidance? But also how will that change? Will that change? Will that not? Will that cause more attention as the community grows?
You're just posing questions. That's our job. Do you have any thoughts or answers?
Of how to actually do it? We do. We have a bunch.
Yeah.
But we don't actually know if it'll work or
Shlomo,
not.
the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah. So there are specific weeks that the community does, meal culture weeks, where everyone gets invited to a meal, etc. But we spoke to students at the beginning of this year about, if how do we make the community, keep it inclusive? How do we, with the growth of it, keep people feeling like they're taken care of? It's very easy to slip through the cracks as well as the community grows. And so, we spoke to students about creating, like, around Rosh Hashanah, there's usually meal culture. So maybe making like meal culture meals that you were set up with, and have the seniors be like the mentors to the freshmen as they go on through their year. And, whatever, we kind of threw that out to a few students to kind of gauge their thoughts, not in the most serious way, but that's, like, I think a big part of our job is to really provide that guidance to the students, and kind of ask them those questions and allow them to think about these things more deeply as well, in one-on-one conversations and group conversations.
So you're saying it's
Yeah, I
just
think
also your job to ask questions.
for sure. I think actually that no, I actually think I feel like really strongly about it. Like, we've discussed this and brought it up to the students, and the students are aware. But I don't think any program that we're going to run will run it and then shove it down the student's throat. So the students have to come up with it kind of on their own, but not really. Meaning, obviously, we're there to help them, but we're not going to run a program that they don't want to happen. So if we think that the community should run this way, but the students disagree, like, at the end of the day, like, it's their community per se, and we're here to pose those questions, to bounce ideas off of. But if the students come to us and say, hey, we want to run this program because we think it'll be helpful, will you do it? Will you help us? The answer is 100%. And we'll pose the questions, we'll sit down with there and have those discussions. But we're not going to be the ones to say, hey guys, this Rosh Hashanah meal, we think we should have big brothers, big sisters, like frats and sororities do, or we think you guys should have like different like what Kira mentioned in terms of the meals, and the meals become your family. And that'll be one way. Or creating, different, we can have meal culture, but the meal culture will be divided up into freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and or by major, or by, there's a million different ideas that Kira and I have. But at the end of the day, the students have to want it, because if they don't want it, then it's not really going to happen anyways.
Yeah, and what's really nice is when the students come to us and say, "Hey, like, I have to make a siyum for a yurt site, or at Camp Stone we do Chavrusa Fest. Can you guys help us run it?" And they come to us with these ideas, and we help them implement it. I know some campuses have like a JLIC board of students. We don't have that. We work with the Jewish Student Association, which is the general board, the general Jewish Student Association, with that board, leading that, and we work in partnership with the JSA. But we really, like, I think that's been really awesome to kind of take what the students come to us. We feel like they trust us. They want us to do it at our house, with our guidance and with our mentorship, that they're coming to us and not any other entity on campus, and we're able to carry that out for them as well. So helping them also move things along, because sometimes they need a little bit of a push, or they don't know how to implement things operationally, or just with a lot of pieces, balancing college work, etc. So that's really cool to see as well.
Well, a growing community really is an exciting problem to have to deal with, and it sounds like the spirit in which you're approaching it is really deeply inspiring and powerful. It also reflects a very familiar dynamic with students. On the one hand, they wanted JLIC at WashU so bad. They want us there. They know they need us there, and also they want to do everything themselves. And that's exactly how it should be. And the spirit in which you're doing the work is a kind of power through humility, and giving them the space. And it's what it means to be an educator. You're giving them the space to grow and learn, and you're giving them the questions, but not just the questions, the spiritual energy and leadership and guidance, and framework in which they can figure out who they're going to be and where they're going to go. It's really amazing. I'd love to hear from you both. If there's any particular Torah ideas, trains of thought that you're drawing on this period of time, going to the end of the year, this is the end of year 3, yes. What's animating you in your own learning and doing this work, and what are you sharing with your students and your community?
You mentioned the growth of a community, the idea of trying to, inspire our students to grow and take leadership. And that's kind of our role here, is that college shouldn't be a place where people stay stagnant, or people look at it as where we can kind of forget who we are and take 4 years off of growth. Hopefully your whole life is ones of growth. And that's part of the reason why Kira and I decided to take this weird jump to go on shlichut to Washington University in St. Louis, which everyone thinks is in Washington, D.C. or Washington State.
I grew up
And
in St.
why we
Louis for
thought
the
this,
audience, just so everybody knows. I spent a lot of time on the campus.
yeah, the whole that is St. Louis for most New Yorkers in LA is it's definitely a flyover city or a flyover state, as they would call it. But why we decided to do what we did is because at the end of the day, we believe it's going to be a growth opportunity for us, that we can grow as a family, grow as individuals, grow as a couple, and that it was going to be positive impact on ourselves. And on top of that, something that I say a lot to our students, I really believe in it, is a Torah from Sifsei Chaim, or Freelander, who talks about Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh Chodesh Nisan specifically. I'm not going to go into the whole Torah here, but pretty much his whole idea here is that the idea of Rosh Chodesh is a Kadosh Baruch Hu pretty much saying to the Jewish people, it's your responsibility now, right? The most important thing in the world is time. You now control time. I'm giving you the responsibility and the ability to, affect the world in a real way. And I think that line is something that's really, really important to me, is that you can only have a responsibility to do something if you have an ability to do so. And if you have the ability, therefore you have the responsibility. And if you look at the word responsibility, it's spelled with the word ability inside of it. And I think that is really what pushes us, is that I think Kira and I both thought we may have the ability to do this, therefore we have a responsibility to do so. And I think our students, at the same point, also have an ability to affect many Jews on campus at WashU and build an amazing community and continue growing and become adults and become leaders in whatever they're going to decide to be in. And therefore, they have a responsibility to do that as well. And I think that's something that is really meaningful to Kira and I. And hopefully it's something that our students have taken from us.
It's an
Do
incredible
you talk
message.
to them about that directly, or is that something you just try to model?
No, I talk to them about it too. At Sudashi Sheet, I usually give a muster shmooze at the end. My students make fun of me that it's usually the same thing, which they're not always wrong, but that is definitely a theme that I think Kira and I mention a lot, which is continued growth, and that these 4 years of college should be challenging you and making you grow as an individual, and hopefully growing in your avodas Hashem and your connection to God as well. Like that all should be part of it. And if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. And if you're not a different person than you were coming into college, then something happened badly. And hopefully, again, that's all for positive. Plus, if you have ability to do things on campus, you have a responsibility to do so. We speak about that all the time here within our Jewish community, outside of the Jewish community. It's something that I think Kira and I both speak about all the time.
I'm finding that. Thank you so much for that. I'm finding it both very inspiring and heartening, and also it feels incredibly demanding. Like I'm thinking through my own heart and my own life, like there's so many things that I have the ability to be working on and doing right now. And frankly, I've got 3 kids and a job, and I'm really tired. And I do some things. Some days I can work on stuff, and other days I'm like, I just want to sit down and with the beer at the end of the day and listen to music, or whatever. I'm wondering, like, both for yourself and for your students, like, how do you help yourself and the people you're leading, the extraordinary young Jews you're leading? How do you help them work through that resistance? But Rabbi, this is really hard right now.
There's so much to unpack here. It's like actually such a passion project for me. What you're saying, and I think what you're saying is true. I hope that I'd rather people have that thought and it bothered them a little bit than to be the other way around. I'd rather someone think to themselves like, man, I wish there's so much I want to do. I just don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. And I would argue that if someone is so tired, someone is so worn out, they have to be able to sit down and figure out what's the right thing for them to do at that point. And that's their ability, right? I can't be at 5 places at once. I don't have the energy to do, everything possible in the world. And therefore I don't have the responsibility, but I would rather people side on, especially at college, especially at that time of your life, I'd rather people side on the fact of like, okay, how much can I do? And then come to me and say, Rabbi, there's so much I want to do. How can I figure that out? And then we can sit down together and figure out a plan and see what you actually have the ability to do. If you're too tired to do something and you're going to do it bad, you don't have the ability anymore. So I would rather people side on that front than say I'm bored or I don't actually know what to do, or that's part one. I would say part two is something I really, really want to impart on my students is that we believe in them, right? That I believe in you and I think that you can accomplish amazing things, and that you should know that I think that, and not just think that as a cliche, but I really believe that. And my student, I think our WashU students are really exceptional people. And I want them to know that I think that and I believe in them and I think they can accomplish so much. And I think sometimes people need to hear that. And I think that's part of what I'm saying in, the ability and responsibility idea, is that I believe that you have amazing abilities. I believe that you are so special and that you have so much to give the world. And I don't know if you've heard that enough growing up, but I can tell you that I and Kira, like, we believe in you, and we can't wait to see what you accomplish. And I think those two things are what I think people hear more than, Rabbi, like, I can't do all these things. Like, it's too much. But again, even if they do, that I would rather them come to me with that problem than the other one. Rav Herschel Schachter has once said a saying that he wishes people came to him more with questions about where to give their tzedakah. It's a question that he doesn't get enough. Is like, I have so much money, Rabbi, where should I give it? He never really gets that question. And I feel like as rabbis, we should always want the question of, Rabbi, I want to do more, but I don't have enough time. Can you help me? I'd rather have that question than many others.
That's really incredibly moving, especially the piece about believing in your students and making sure they know that. Kira, what's on your mind and heart these days?
So yesterday was our end of year event. We made it a end of year event plus our daughter's upcoming third birthday. She
Fantastic.
had a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was a community event, birthday event, and what was so special is that everyone there really raised her, or we're part of raising her. Part of obviously with us, but I think we really feel like we've gained a family. I guess like the nature of our work here at WashU, it really being like a grassroots experience and really like working in, really in tandem with the students and really being there to support them and them being there to support us and our family. And it really I think we've been reflecting a lot on, what these 3 years have been. And obviously we're looking forward to the coming year as well. Even over Shabbat, Shlomo mentioned that Sudat Shlishit, he speaks gives a muster schmooze, and I wish that I was able to record them each week because really it's an incredible collection. But one thing that he touched on this past Shabbat, was about these students are the closest to us, the most important people to us, even just location wise, right? Like we see the students I don't see them every day at Minyan. I usually do drop off, but us together, we're meeting with students, we're seeing them, we're present throughout the week, whole Shabbat, really they are our family. And we really want to express that to them and, and kind of share that with them and just like seeing them show up for our family and for our daughter yesterday. I mean, she calls them her best friends at the Hillel and she has her best friends at school. And they love her. And I think a very, I'd say impactful conversation I've had, maybe it was last year with a student, she said the best thing that one of the best things that we get from you guys is seeing your family and how you build a family, how you are as a couple. It gives me a sense of almost future thinking, a sense of hope for there is life, there is, reality outside of this bubble of college. And obviously we know that's such a big part of the JLIC model is bringing a family to a community and being almost a guide and an example for these students as, when they do leave college, what will be next for them in Bezrat Hashem, their relationships and their homes and their family building, God willing. And then even just having kind of the opposite conversation of wow, I love, seeing your family, but it makes me nervous for I'm going to be leaving college. I'm almost going to be, missing the bubble, the ridiculousness, the kind of dynamics, the drama of the community, because that means real life is about to start. So it's almost being an example, but also being able to guide students as we leave and as they graduate. And, life is really amazing outside of college too, right? Guiding them on what to expect and helping them answer those big questions about next steps. And, what will that look like choosing a community? What will that look like, dating? What will that look like, building a home? Does it have to be that serious? Could it also be fun? Will I have freedom? And Shlomo and I talk about it a lot, the most worth it things are the hardest, and the most meaningful things come out of making decisions for yourself and choosing for yourself. Obviously, there's something so special about being, kind of having a community handed to you on a silver platter and being able to shape that. But when you do leave, what is that going to look like? And, through chaburot, through chavruto, through just one-on-one conversations, kind of having those guiding conversations and kind of figuring out also with a diverse community, what that's going to look like, how that kind of shapes to each individual person. As there are different students. It's a pretty diverse community. Students who aren't the most halachic want to learn halacha and figure out like what this could look like for me. At the beginning of this year, I gave a course on Torah and Mishpacha. I was doing the Eden Center training course, and so being able to apply that and teaching the students, and it was a really, really wide range of students there, and kind of trying to figure out through teaching and through connecting like how it could resonate with like such a diverse group there. And then just back to the conversations, like knowing that we're speaking to all different types of students, and their lives post college are going to look a lot different than one another, but how can we kind of guide them on like the general foundation, and know that amazing things are to come outside of just the bubble of WashU.
Sounds like there's a lot going on there and a lot of stuff that the students can gain from the Ashkenazi presence on campus. Hopefully not Ashkenormative.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope so. We really
it's
hope
been
so.
a good time.
What are you guys looking forward to for next year?
A growing community, so that definitely is something that we're excited about. Meeting brand new people and building newer relationships. Having alumni, being able to continue those relationships. I think it's really, really exciting. Every year it's really, really sad. Like Kira said, it's like
Great.
whenever there are people that you're not
25% of the community every year.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you built these relationships, and then the relationship changes because you're not seeing them every single day, and that's sometimes hard. But I think we're really excited about what's to come at WashU. Like just new people, new energy, new leaders in the community, which always brings different perspectives and different initiatives. I think that's really, really exciting. And for us, like hopefully we're going to be growing as individuals and growing as people, and hopefully we'll be able to also be a little bit different and bring a different vibe or bring a different perspective or different ideas to campus. So like I think it's really exciting for us.